Hello and welcome to another F12 programming video. My name is Mike Hewitt.
I'm Jacob Rains.
And we're going to be talking about access modifiers. Now, access modifiers, if you don't know, that's the private, public kind of things we put in front of everything. This got me in an interview situation where somebody, I was in an interview a while back and they said, hey, what access modifier? And I drew a blank because I'm like, access modifier. And then as soon as they said, well, public, private, I'm like, oh yeah, I definitely know them. I just didn't know the name associated with it. Thank you, Brandy. But go ahead and tell us a little bit about all the access modifiers.
Well, now I know who you had the interview with. So there's only a handful of access modifiers that I think most people use. I think there are a lot of programmers who use exclusively public, which means basically no security, that it's open to anybody who wants to access that resource. And there's nothing wrong with that if we're on a small project or where we're the single programmer. I don't think of them so much as secure from a security standpoint. I think of them as an organizational standpoint. So if I have a property in my code that I want to not expose outside of that class, so it's just something I don't have to look through. So we're looking at some code here from a previous video that we did. There's already this employee collection. If I pull up this employees object and I hit dot, I only want to see my things that are that I wanted to be accessible, right? If there's some internal stuff going on inside of that class that I don't need to expose, I don't want to see it, so I don't get confused in my own code. So there's other reasons behind just security,
And public and private are the extremes, right?
Yes.
It's either everybody with public or nobody with private. It's only the person inside that class.
Yeah, so you see a lot of public, which means everybody can see it, right?
That's outside, that's inside other projects. I mean, it is absolutely everything. There's no way you can't get to it.
Yeah, private means nobody can see it, or at least nobody outside of that literal class. If I come into, like I think we were playing with this one earlier, if we take this to make it private, I can come over into some other method or property within that same class, and I can say this.days, but that's it. Nobody else can see this. This is invisible now, being marked private. So if I come back to my program here, and I try to pull open employees.days, I'm going to get a red squiggly, because as far as this class is concerned, it doesn't exist. Now, beyond the two extremes of public and private, there are a few in between. You start to see internal every now and then, which means only that, I'm going to use the word assembly, which is the correct term, but only that assembly can see it, which is just a fancy way of saying only that project can see it. The other one you'll see is protected, which means only, I'm going to use the fancy terms here, only derived classes can see it.
And there's not an access modifier saying only somebody inside this namespace can see it, correct?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, no, not that I know of.
Well, it'd be an interesting one.
We'll get some comments if we're wrong. So when we make something protected, we're saying only the derived classes. That means it's private to everybody unless a class comes around and inherits from our class. Then they are able to see those protected members. That used to be all there was. At some point, Microsoft, I don't remember at what point, some time ago, they introduced some new ones. So there is protected internal, which these get weird. So this is basically a combination of protected and internal. So if you are, I'm just going to put combination here. This is going to get confusing. So protected internal means that if you could see it if it was protected, or you could see it because it was internal, it's going to be available to you. It's a little looser than either one of them individually. So it'll be visible to other projects, or to anybody who inherits from it. The other one, and this one's the one that always trips me up, is private protected, and it is very secured down. It is almost private. Matter of fact, that's what I'm going to put for my note on this one. It is almost private. The only way you can see something that is a private protected outside of the class that it was written in is if you are in the same assembly and you inherit from it. And it's got to be the combination thereof. Either one individually won't do it. You can't inherit from another assembly. You can't... it's got to be in the same assembly, and it's got to be through inheritance.
So protected internal basically says, okay, if I'm inside of my assembly, yes, no matter what.
Yes.
If it's outside, the only way I can get to it if it's inherited.
Right.
So that's, and I could see some very interesting cases for that. And private protected is, it has to be inside. And the
has
only
to be inside.
And the only other way is protected. So it has to be inherited, which I can see.
So which means even if you inherit it and you're outside of,
nope. I mean, because I can see that you're inherited and everything else, but you don't want other people outside. So, and that, I could see that too. I think there's probably, I could see this growing a little bit.
Yeah, the protected internal is basically saying it's internal, but if you want to inherit it,
right,
we'll go ahead and show you that stuff inside. Yeah. The protected private is private protected is as close to private as you can get without actually being private.
Yep. Yeah. So, well, I hope you learned something. Definitely, if you can, like and subscribe and comment if you know of any other ones out there. I think that would be really cool to have a namespace one, right? I can't believe there isn't one like that.
Thank you for watching that video from F12 Programming. Please remember to like and subscribe. That does so much for us in the ratings. You have no idea. Also, don't forget to comment below. I hope you enjoyed, and good luck coding.